maraming magandang topic tayo. Especially yung sa Zika virus, saka yung additional expose na itong mga whistleblower natin. Siguro, firstly, I'd like to congratulate our scientist, Stuart Bloom, for making an in-depth analysis, solution, treatment, prevention, and control regarding not only Zika virus, but also some other man-made viruses being used to depopulate the world, especially third world countries like us. So maybe you can start with Stuart, and he has a living witness here, Ilka, Ruso, a Finnish Filipino, has been a victim of this kind of virus. Okay, Stuart, please start.
Thank you. Eric overstated it a little bit. Let me explain what is happening. I do analysis of different situations, and what I'm going to talk about mostly today is dengue and papaya leaf juice. And basically, I have a handout that I gave to everyone, and basically the WHO does not seem to know anything about papaya leaf in the treatment of dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases, and that is right here on their guidelines in 2009. And then they gave a fact sheet in 2015, and it says number 6, severe. There's 8 different points to it, and it says severe damage is a leading cause of serious illness and death amongst children in Asia and Latin American countries. And then number 7, there is no specific treatment for dengue or severe dengue. And so what I did was I had been seeing reports of dengue, plus when my son had chikungunya a couple years ago, we gave him papaya leaf juice and it healed him. Okay? And so what I did was I put together a whole list of academic papers that are peer-reviewed papers from all over the world, from India, from Sri Lanka. And I made a page on Facebook called Papaya Dengue. So anyone can go to Papaya Dengue, and all of the academic papers are there for you to see. And in this paper, after they say there's no treatment, I'll read you. These are excerpts from the study. This pilot study has shown the effects of papaya leaf juice in dengue patients of elevating the total white cell counts, platelet counts, and recovery without hospital admission. And that study is salutary effects of Carica papaya leaf extract in dengue fever patients back in Sri Lanka in 2006. And then this is a study that talks about raising the leukocyte counts on something called thrombocytosis. And basically it talks about the efficacy of it. We then have another paper, Therapeutic Potential of Carica papaya. And it says the preliminary data of the present study suggests the therapeutic role of papaya leaf extract as a cheap and potential herbal therapy for treating the dengue-infected patients. Further studies should be carried out for identifying the compounds present in Carica papaya leaf and exploring the therapeutic role in curing dengue infection. You don't need to figure out what's there. You need to use it. We go on to several other papers that you can see. I'll read this. It says, traditionally leaves have been used for the treatment of a wide range of ailments like the treatment of malaria, dengue, jaundice, immunoglobulin, and antiviral activity. Dengue fever, commencing on studies of Dr. Sarah Dengue, conducted the research on 70 dengue fever patients and said papaya leaf juice helps increase white blood cells and platelets, normalizes clotting, and repairs the liver. It can be concluded that papaya leaves induce the rapid increase in platelet count and immunity. It may play a valuable role in the management of dengue in the future. And there's another study that says Dr. Soliman investigated the platelet increasing properties of papaya leaf juice in patients with dengue. An open-label, random-controlled trial was carried out on 228 patients with dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever. It was concluded that these things do significantly increase the platelet counts, and that's another study. One of the most interesting things, and there are several there, I won't go through all of them, there is on the site a way to prepare it, where you take the leaves and you crush them in the mortar and pestle, and then you filter it through a rag, and then you take certain tablespoons. So anyone can take this. And what I'm recommending is you go out and you get a papaya, not a GMO one. You scrape the seeds out of the papaya. You dry the seeds. There are instructions on this site. And then you plant the papaya and you grow the papaya. And then you take the juice when you sick. What is happening is that the ingredients in papaya leaf juice raise the blood cells and the platelets, both the white blood cells and the red blood cells. What the white blood cells do is they see the virus and they attack the virus and they suck the virus into what's called a microphage. And then it breaks down that virus into neutralizing things. So basically, you get a disease, you get an infection, and all of these white blood cells rush to the, to knock out the disease, and they get depleted, and you run out of it. And the same thing happens with blood cells, and they get depleted. So that's why, and if the blood cells get depleted enough, your blood doesn't clot. And when it doesn't clot, you can hemorrhage, and that's dengue hemorrhagic fever. These studies show that papaya leaf juice raises both white and red blood cells, and it knocks out the disease. And it needs to be propagated. The one thing that's interesting is Malaysia. The health ministry is conducting studies on the use of papaya leaf juice to cure dengue fever, said the Director General. He said clinical studies by the Institute of Medical Research on papaya leaf juice on dengue fever patients, non-hemorrhagic dengue and one-class dengue hemorrhagic, showed the intake of 30 milligrams and 2 large spoonfuls of mature papaya leaf juice daily for 3 days raised the platelet count. Okay. Dr. Noor Hisham said this when commenting on a statement by certain parties that the papaya leaf contained dangerous chemicals because they're saying it has dangerous things. He said, a person weighing 60 kilograms requires 12,000 papaya leaves at one time to induce any poison. So there's no poisoning aspect to it. The one thing that I can say is I do not recommend this for pregnant women because it has not been known in folklore as an abortifacient. However, the quantities that would have to be used, my assumption is, would be so much to cause some sort of a thing. What I am recommending is other things like zinc, yogurt, selenium, garlic, folic acid, things that raise the leukocyte count in your blood, because all of these things will fight off diseases coming into your body. Now, you can all go and look at this site and read these things. There's nothing on this that I wrote except the thing at the top. So it's really clinical information. The stuff is spelled out, so you can really have confidence that if you're reporting, you can basically say, this study says this, and this study says this, and the quotations are there. So you can write stories, and you can have shows, and you can have people on and say, what happened to your kid? How much did it cost you when you had dengue? And what's the result now? And chikungunya and all these other things. Now, on February 4th, Ilka is my friend. He's a student at Ateneo, and he helps me do some of my research. And he texts me on the 4th, and he says, I just got diagnosed with dengue, okay, and pneumonia. And I said to him, and I'll talk to you when you can contradict me if the same thing wrong. I said, send out someone to get papaya leaves. He says, okay. He sends them out to get papaya leaves. I said, juice the papaya leaves, and then take them. And basically, over the next 2 or 3 days, he felt better. and we have it on a Facebook chat. And what happened was he reinforced the platelet counts in his blood, and actually kept them from decreasing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the counts, and we have some of the counts. He went in, and what was the count? It was 131 in platelets, and it went up.
It was stable.
It was stable, but basically, this thing replenished his blood, and
Maybe, Stuart,
All right.
you can narrate to us how
Yeah,
the basic
so-
treatment of this
I
papaya.
can just share some of my own experience with papaya leaf and dengue. Basically, I was diagnosed on the 4th with dengue. I think I picked it up from ANPO. Anyway, and on my first day, I felt very bad. I was suffering chronic dehydration, headaches, a little bit of muscle pain, typical syndromes. And then I went to get diagnosed, and after the diagnosis, they just prescribed me with rest and rehydration. And this is an important point because actually there is no medical cure for dengue. They just prescribe you with rest and dehydration. If you go to the hospital, all they really do is put an IV in you. And going to the hospital, I'm lucky to have insurance, but it can cost thousands of pesos just to intern someone for a single day, as I'm sure you're all aware. Anyway, I was taking papaya for some 4 days, and although my platelet count decreased slightly, it was stable. Around the 4th day or so, on the 8th, I started to notice that I had a bit of a rash. After this, they took me to the hospital, and they said, "Okay, you need to stay here now because we're
stopped.
Yeah.
The rash. He stopped the papaya leaf, and what happened is his platelet count went down.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was in the hospital, I couldn't get access to papaya leaf anymore because they control your food and all of these kinds of things, and they have a specific kind of diet. So I wasn't taking papaya leaf in the hospital, and my platelet count dropped almost half of what it was. So I was at around, when I was admitted, I was around 108. And during my 2-day stay in the hospital, I went down to something like 50. So after a while, the dengue went away by itself, as it usually does. But during the time before I was admitted to the hospital, I didn't see as much of a rapid rate of the decline in my platelets. So, and in addition to that, I was feeling basically fine. As a matter of fact, I think it was on the 6th, when I went for a checkup with the doctor actually said, like, "Are you sure you have dengue?" Because I didn't have any symptoms. I was feeling fine. Okay, my platelets were lower, but I had no problems with headaches or not even muscle pain, or then my fever went away as well. When I was admitted, I was around 39 degrees Celsius. That's a very high fever. And in a couple of days, it went down to normal. I was at 36.5 or so, which is an average temperature really of a healthy person. So I can definitely attribute a positive experience to taking papaya leaf at least in the first 2 days before I was admitted to the hospital.
Great.
My sense is that the reason why he was able to recover was because the papaya leaf that he took in the very beginning killed the major part of the illness that was inside of him. And the remnants came out after the fact. But there's no mistaking that this worked. Now, let me say something else. I do believe that he had an allergy to something in the papaya leaf. Okay, which can happen with this as well. There are different things with these. So none of it is to be taken lightly with it, but study it and look at it and be cognizant of these things. Just like the thing with pregnant women. And it's not something that we would recommend right now to pregnant women. Although we have a rat study that shows that giving a rat who had babies through 21 days, they gave the rat mother 800 milligrams per kilogram of Papaya, which is the thing that causes uterine contractions. And she delivered all the babies healthy, and she was healthy throughout the whole thing. So my sense is it would take an awful lot to do that. But raising the leukocytes is the most critical thing. Now, as far as the Zika virus, when I'm talking, I'm explaining what I think it to be, okay, what I think is going on. I'm not talking like, from on high. But Zika is a mild form of dengue. So mild that 80% of people that have it don't even realize they have it. Okay? Now, the leukocytes in your bloodstream. When a woman gets pregnant, when foreign fluids go into her uterus, the leukocytes see those as a foreign body. So they go through the epithelial cells from the bloodstream and they go into the uterus to attack, so to speak, the fluids that are in the uterus, okay? So say you're in the first eight weeks, which is when the baby really forms, okay? The neural tube starts at 3 weeks, okay? And then progresses into the 4th or 5th week, okay? And that's after the implantation, all right? So I suspect that what's happening is that during the first 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, someone gets Zika. They don't realize that they have it because the symptoms are so low, and some of them could mirror even morning sickness. So what happens is the Zika virus is being attacked by leukocytes. Those leukocytes are not going into the uterus. In the uterus, they perform certain functions, okay, that make a difference in the formation of the baby. And if these leukocytes that are not there and they're not having an ingredient, it's like missing a cuff on a shirt, or missing a button at a specific time. And if it's in a chain, it won't grow, okay? So my sense is being interrupted. I have studies that show that as high as 50% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. And when we talk about that, it's very early in all of this. But most of your miscarriages are related to infection. I saw a study, they took 28,000 women, they found out of these 28,000 women there was 14 dengue cases. No one presented at earlier than 8 weeks. That should tell you something. A baby is formed by 8.5 weeks. It starts to move and all the other different things.
Inside the womb?
Yes. Wow. Yes, I have studies that show this. Okay? So in those 8.5 weeks, it was forming. Okay? Now, if something interrupted the forming during that time, with dengue, because dengue is so severe, it almost always aborts spontaneously. Because Zika is mild and you don't realize you had it, all right, the baby can still live, and that's the problem. The incidence of it in Brazil, the coincidence of the GMO mosquitoes that were put in, and these were put in 2011. People don't realize that. 10 million mosquitoes were put in then. And the whole idea of this thing was that the offspring wouldn't reproduce, except for one problem. Tetracycline is the antidote to these mosquitoes. Okay, so if one of these mosquitoes, genetically modified mosquitoes, gets tetracycline, then it will live. Now, almost every farm animal, from chickens to cows, gets antibiotics, tetracycline. So theoretically, if one of these mosquitoes bit a farm animal that had tetracycline, it could live. So that's why the possibility of a spread on Zika with that and a mutation, because the liquids could be passed on sexually between the GMO virus to the female, and then the female could be having sex with other males, and all of it. I do not know this for sure. I'm just looking at certain causal relationships, but I will say that the fact that Zika's mild, you don't realize you have it. Leukocytes attack it. These leukocytes don't go into the uterus. It doesn't bring them in, and you have no formation. Now, what could also be happening is, in the autopsy, they found Zika in the brains of the baby. Okay? So, what could be happening is, the leukocytes in the bloodstream could have Zika remnants in them. Those leukocytes could have gone into the uterus, and because they were messed up and not doing the proper processing, that could have been included in the brain, because they're only finding it in the brain. Okay, they don't seem to be finding it in the rest of the body. Right now, I didn't really present on Zika because I'm looking at all the different things. My main thing is I would like everyone to tell everyone about papaya leaf juice. Okay, so that they can take it and cure their kids.
You boil it?
Huh?
You boil it?
No, you don't boil it. No, you take it, you ground it. If you have a blender, if you have a juicer, rich people, or give them water in a pestle. You take the leaves, you wash the leaves with a little bit of water, you grind it up, you cut it with a scissors. Okay, cut it with a scissors. Put it in a pestle, and grind. 4 pieces. Yeah, raw. You put it in a pestle. You can put a little bit of water in it, and then you take it and you squeeze the juice out, and you take the juice every 4 hours and all. I have rat models that show that rats taking it for 28 days, no toxicity. There's things on toxicity here where they're taking it and it's no problem. It's my belief that everyone, I take it, okay? And this is how I do it and what I want to recommend to everyone. This stuff tastes awful, okay? Whether it's Mulungai or whether it's any of these leaf juices, it tastes awful. But the worse it tastes, the more good stuff it has in it. So this is what I do. I juice it. And then I take pills. You know the pill strips? I take the plastic pill strips, okay? I rip off all of the tinfoil. And then I pour the juice into the strips. And then I take the strips and I put them in the freezer. And I freeze them. Okay? Then I take them out and I take warm tea, not hot tea, and I pop the pills and I don't even taste these things. Okay? And I find that if these things are raising our leukocytes and our blood cells, it's attacking everything in our bloodstream. It could help with all different types of things and everything. So I'm encouraging everyone, and this is not a money-making thing, okay? I have zero interest in this. All I care about is that people take care of themselves and their kids don't get sick and they don't have to sell their possessions or their bodies to pay for this. They go into debt. I mean, it's just brutal. You guys, you know, the Philippine press with all this, you can have a big say in spreading the word. And this is the information. You tell everyone who tells everyone. And all of a sudden, we have a lot more healthy people. We don't have sick kids and all of that.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for educating us, Stuart. It's a very good explanation about these things. But anyway, let's move to another issue, no? Itong mga scammer. John, any update sa mga sting operator?
Okay, our update for the scam activities in the Philippines, especially in online and double your money scam investments. ANPO will set up a hotline for the victims of online scam and pyramid, and also in double your money scam victims, because based on our study,
In the past 10 years, we have at least 2 million Filipinos victims, and I think it's a 2 billion peso loss for their money. So government must do something for this, and also especially for DTI and Securities and Exchange Commission. And then yun po, regarding the scam activities and unscrupulous companies, individuals, we spotted the area, especially in Quezon City and Ortigas. Diyan po yung mga area ng mga scam groups, scammers, especially in Quezon Avenue, corner EDSA, and Timog, in Kamuning, and also in Ortigas.
Pwede mo mabigay yung specific sa mga lugar, restaurants, hotel, or what?
Actually, the hotel, yung latest issue dito po sa Laccent, no? Meron po ditong isang grupo. There is one group na nagpo-form here in the Laccent Hotel, collecting monies from our fellow Filipinos and promising yung high interest without necessary permit.
Too good to be true.
Too good to be true, no? So, double your money for 4 days. So, nandito po sila sa Laccent Hotel, and then yung iba naman,
anong eksaktong kali yung Laccent?
Dito sa may Timog Avenue, corner Morato. And it was operated by the, actually, I don't mention the name, no? It was operated by the former networkers, and also in Ortigas, and dito man naman sa may Shell and Metro Walk, meron pong mga groups dyan na nag-ooperate for their illegal activities. So, kawawa po yung mga Pilipino na makakasali dito, although the Filipino is, there are willing victims for this kind of activities.
Okay. Lito, may kadagdag ka? Bago mabigay ka, RJ?
Yes, I will add the following. The reason why we set up a telephone line to service the scam victims is because that we cannot accommodate as many as 50 victims in our office. So it is impossible for us to serve the victims in a day. So we set up a landline. Our landline number is 02417270, or they can send emails ampo.legal@gmail.com, on our website www.ampo.com.ph. These are the 3 communication lines that we can serve the scam victims. And for those victims outside Metro Manila, they can use the 3 communication line to contact us. The reason why we set up is that we want to serve victims outside Metro Manila, because every day we have 50 visitors just to forward to us their complaint. And one thing more, every day the scam companies are increasing. There is no stop. I do not know why the government does not stop the setting up of more scam victims. It is high time to stop this, because more than 200 billion pesos were lost from the scam victims to the perpetrators. And up to this time, nobody was put to jail on this kind of crime, which every day is going on. And it is going on openly. They collect money openly. They present business proposal openly. So it is high time that the government should stop this. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lito. John, meron pa?
Paidagdag lang ako. Usually this case is in Department of Justice already, no? Yung regarding dito sa Hyper Program International, itong nandito sa in front of GMA 7 at corner EDSA, that is 15 billion pesos po yung nakangay nung he is a 24 years old leader, no, yung president ng Hyper or HPI, Christopher Lito de la Cruz. So I can mention his name because there was a case filed already. So 15 billion pesos in just 8 months of operation. So very sad, very because our fellow Filipino small and medium entrepreneurs, they lack of awareness this kind of investment scheme, no? So yun po, tungkol doon sa HPI, tumutulong din po kami, yung aming the ANPO, meron po kaming legal counsel sa pamamagitan ni Atty. Liasos, hindi po siya nakarating ngayon. Tumutulong po kami para yung ibang mga victims ma-reach po namin, at hindi lang po sa HPI, and then the Global Intergold. This is a gold shop, online gold shop based in London. Ito po yung marami pong mga victims, no? Yung ating mga fellow OFW na umaabot din po ito ng bilyong peso po yung nawala sa kanila. So, yun po, no? Ang masakit ay malaki po ang bentahe na international po yung kalaban. Sila po ay hindi po mahahabol. Kaya kung hindi po kami magsampa sa international court, wala po talagang mangyayari. So yung kanilang perang pinaghirapan, hindi po talaga mababawi sa ganitong mga paraan. Kaya in-encourage namin lahat ng mga victims, pwede silang pumunta doon sa aming website, and then pwede mag-send ng email or tumawag doon sa aming telepono or yung hotline. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Jun. At grabe na. Dati puro under the table. Now,
Openly.
all kinds of table. Just like itong ibabalot ni Javellana ngayon, grabe, tagal na nitong tumatahol regarding this mga corporate greed. Talagang hindi niyata matipigil hanggang walang ginagawa yung gobyerno. Kasi kung gagalaw talaga yung gobyerno, may political will, talagang lahat mamamoderate ang greed nila. RJ.
Magandang umaga po. Palagay ko po yung gobyerno natin hindi yung gagalaw. Kahit 3 gobyerno pa yung upo natin dyan, sapagkat yung mga naupo sa gobyerno ay dito sila kumukuha ng pondo para sa mga pangailangan nila sa eleksyon. At kitang-kita naman dyan, meron nga dyan na kakasal lang, doon sa kasal niya, kitang-kita mo yung naglipa ng mga oligarchs. Hindi ko na babanggitin yung pangalan. Meron na isang tumatakbong pangulo na ginagamit niya ay isang aeroplano, ano po, na kung saan ay parang nakalalasing yata yung aeroplano na yun. Hindi ko na rin babanggitin kung kanino yun. So, ang mga presidente, ang mga senador, ang mga vice-presidente, gobernador, congressman, alkalde, siguro hanggang sa pinakamababa na, sa konsihal, abot na rin po ang barangay, ay naglipa na po ang pondo ng mga pribadong individual na ito. Katulad po sa tubig, ay napakalaking problema ang inihaharap. Ang harapin ng susunod na administrasyon. Sapagkat meron pong isinampa muli ang Maynila dito po sa Quezon City Regional Trial Court, Branch 93. Ngayong darating na March 7, ukol po ito dun sa usapin ng corporate income tax. Nais po ni Maynila na kunin yung sinasabi niyang karapatan daw niya dahil siya'y nanalo sa isang international arbitration, yung 4.5 billion pesos na pass-on na taxes sa ating mga water consumers. Simula po yan 2013 hanggang sa kasalukuyan. So, Ano po ang gagawin ng Water for All Refund movement dito at United Filipino Consumers and Commuters? This coming March 7, kahit hindi po kami imbitado, pupunta po kami doon at naghahanda na po kami ng aming sagot, upang ipabatid sa korte na meron pong nakabinbin na kaso sa Korte Suprema ukol dito sa usapin ng corporate income tax. Pinayin namin po ito August 2013, 2 taon at 6 na buwan na inuupuan po. Hanggang ngayon ay inuupuan ang kasong ito dahil ang halaga ho ng kasong ito ay palagay ko po ay aabot na sa halos 100 bilyong piso. Yung halaga ng pera na ito, pera po natin ito, hindi ito pera ng kung sino-sinong tao, kundi tayo mga water consumers, atin po ito. Ito yung pera na dapat sana na magkaroon ng isang malinaw na posisyon. Ang lahat ng mga presidentiables, ang lahat ng mga vice presidentiables, ang mga senador, ang mga kongresista, at mga iba pang mga sangay ng ating gobyerno sa usapin ng mga public utilities. Huwag na natin pakialaman pa yung mga ibang usapin. Mag-focus na lang po ang mga presidente na tumatakbo sa tubig, sa kuryente, sa pagkain, gamot, ospital, transportasyon. Ito po yung mga batayang pangailangan ng taong bayan na kailangan natin. Pero ano ang ginagawa ng mga politiko ngayon? Sila po ay tahimik. Ang ibig nilang pag-usapan ay yung mga issue na kung saan ay wala namang masyadong malalim na mga bagay. Ito pong mga issue na ito ay mamanahin pa ng ating mga apo. Katulad ng pag-uubos po ng 3.2 trillion na national budget, pagka wala ng pera na yan, ito'y mamanahin ng mga susunod na mga nangangarap na mamuno ng ating bayan. So, sana po ay magkaroon ng isang paghuhukom ang mga patriotikong revolusyonaryong Pilipino. Na huwag tayo masyadong magkaroon ng ilusyon sa halalan. Maraming halalan na po ang nagdaan. Kaya ang aming panawagan ay dapat i-assess nating maigi. Saan ba talaga tayo patungo? Magandang umaga po at maraming salamat.
Thank you, Ajay, sa iyong hangalan. Hindi halalan hangalan. Trevor, meron kang tanong kanina.
You know, for a fact, since time immemorial, that papaya leaves brings down sex drive. The nuns are using it. What about the male? Is it bad for the male, which papaya leaves?
It keeps the sex drive.
Wait, but Stuart, use your mic.
I think I've been looking at all the aspects of things, side effects, whatever else. I saw certain things about infertility. Okay, however, my sense is that a lot of this is the volumes that you take and the definitive things. I will post everything that I find in all of these areas with them. But there's enough evidence that if you were to get sick from dengue, okay, it doesn't really matter if you're infertile during that time. It's not a permanent sort of situation. It's a situation. It's like his platelet counts rose when he took it, and then when he didn't, it went down. So the main issue is if you get sick with dengue or chikungunya or any of these other different things, the first thing you want to do is get papaya leaves and take it.
How many glasses per day? How many glasses?
It says this ain't 30 mils every couple of hours. I take like 12 every couple of days myself, just to keep it. Now, how much did you do?
I was probably taking less than the recommended amount. I took 1 cup in the morning and 1 cup before I went to sleep. And by cup, I mean a little teacup like this, and then just the bottom full.
Before meals or after meals?
After meals, or with meals.
You know, with all of these things, I believe that it really is all part of nature. And there are something called oxidants, which is endoacidic acid, and it builds cells and it cleans everything. So it has remarkable merit. Okay. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. In this, I didn't make any representations. All I did, as I was saying to him, all I did was I said, okay, how do I show that papaya leaf has efficacy when the World Health Organization isn't showing anything? I took every peer-reviewed study I could find and I put it into this thing without any comment from myself. And you look at the stuff and you make a decision. And then on the Facebook page Papaya Dengue, you can look at the papers, you can download the papers, you can look at videos, how to make it, you can share it, you can do anything you want. The one thing that's very interesting that I will be putting on, and perhaps another session when the science forwards a bit more, is you can take the seeds. There are studies that show that you can make larvicides from plants. And they're talking about the seed of the papaya and also the leaves. And so imagine if you took these and you made insecticides out of this. And there are studies that show that. So that's something, and that could be a business for people. You know, better than the other things. So all of the information is there, and everyone looks at it. I do not want to see. I don't want to see everyone hoarding papaya leaves, which is why I say I was told that guava can do certain things as well, and other ways to raise leukocytes. But the best defense against this is to get a papaya and scoop out the seeds and dry them, and plant them in your thing, and have your own leaves. It's like a free pharmaceutical thing, so to speak.
Just a moment. With regard to the sex drive, from what I know personally, it's the priest would consume the fruit. So the fruit is different from the leaf in terms of its structure and chemical content as well. So yes, it's the same plant, but I think it's a little bit different. Also, another note, I heard that tawa-tawa is also has a similar effect as well. So I mean, there's a whole gamut of herbs out there which can be helpful.
One for RJ, please. RJ, I'm into water. Okay, I'm 35 by impact. Take the MRT, several dozen high-rise buildings. It's water, right? 10 big houses in Makati, 80 stories, that's one small city. There's no more water. Maybe these people are trying to get everything they can get and then forget about the water. Because there's no more water worldwide. California now, millions of fish are dying. In Africa, 10 million people not even a glass of water to drink. And here we are, doing all of this. Maybe they don't care. What can you say about that?
Ang tingin po namin dyan, ang susunod na gera ay tungkol po sa tubig. So, tubig po ay regalo naman sa atin ng Panginoong Diyos yan. Libre po yan. So, inilagay lang po yan sa dam at nilagyan ng tubo at inumersyon na. Tulad po ng mga nasa pharma at nutraceutical industry, kitang-kita naman natin dati yung nutraceutical, very dominant yan, ng mga unang sibilisasyon, Pero nung naimbento yung katagang komersyalismo, nawala po yan. Pero ang lahat po bumabalik dun sa mga basic elements na ito. So, yan ang problema ng ating lipunan. Masyado na tayong tinutulak sa pader sa komersyalismo. Nawawala na po yung pagiging tao natin. Kapwa-tao natin ay pinapatay na ho natin. So, yan po yung sitwasyon natin.
Juby.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Para Sir RJ, follow-up question. Alam mo, Sir RJ, matagal mo nang pinaglalaban to. Actually, marami ka nang sinayang na panahon at oras. Bakit hindi niyo po dugtong sa inyong ginagawa ng mga inventor ngayon, na yung maruming tubig pwede nilang ma-filter at turn it into a drinking water. Siguro mas maganda idagdag niyo po yun sa ipaglaban ninyo na suportahan yung mga inventor na ganun. Kasi nung nasa Rotary Club of Intramuros po ako, napag-usapan po yan. At kung meron lang sapat na pondo, napakaganda hong ginhawa para sa lahat ng mga walang babayan.
Good input yun, QB.
Sa katunayan po, bago kami naging na-involve sa consumer and commuters movement, nagsimula po kami sa environmental group. Pangalan ng aming grupo ay Luntiang Pangarap Green Green. Kami po ay maakyat ng kabundukan ng Ipodam, dyan sa mga watersheds area na yan, para maproteksyonan natin yung supply ng tubig dito sa Kalakang, Maynila. Nakapagtanim mo kami dyan ng hindi mo bababa sa mga 8,000 saplings. Siguro ngayon, malalaki na po ito. Yun nga lang, ay hindi naman po kami malaking organisasyon. Kami po ay maliit na organisasyon lang. At ang ating mga kinakalaban ay ito yung mga nagbibigay ng dikta sa future ng ating bayan. So hindi po namin kaya na kami lang. So dapat tulong-tulong po tayo dito. Yung mga nasa media na patriotiko, kahit yung ibang boss mga oligarchs din, pwede naman tayo magkwentuhan at mag-usap. At magtayo tayo ng isang Pilipinas na talagang masabi nating may pagmamalaki nating lahat. So, kaya dapat tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo, no? Maganda po yung mukha ninyo na yung mga alternatibo na yan. At darating po tayo dyan. At tuloy-tuloy lang po yung pitik, kahit papitik-pitik lang kahit pa paano naman po.
Nakapunas din.
Nakarang po natin sila. Isipin nyo po, simula 2013
punching.
2013 hanggang ngayon po, ilang bilyon na po yung naharang nating pondo na dapat kinolekta nila. At ngayon, kinukulit nila uli yung corporate tax. Minamadali nila itong lumabas dahil yung susunod na administrasyon gusto nilang implement yan. At kung mapupuna rin po natin yung pagpuposisyon ng mga tao ng nasa gobyerno ngayon, naglalagay na sila ng mga key people sa Department of Justice. Sino ba yung nasa Department of Justice ngayon? Siya rin yung hepe ng regulatory body nung dinidinig itong mga arbitrasyon na kaso na ito. Banggitin ko na po, si DOJ Caparas. Ano po? So, bakit nila pinuposisyon ng mga taong ito? Siguro, kung matalo yung kanilang mga manok, ano natin, ganun din sa Commission on Audit, hindi natin alam kung sinishredder na yung mga importanteng dokumento, kung sa DAP, etc. So dapat ito yung mga dapat nating suriin at tignan, na hindi ho natin nakikita. Hindi ho namin alam kung yung aming mga kaso ay may pag-asa pa dun sa mga pamahala na ito, pero dapat tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo. Pero darating po ang panahon, puputok ang bulkan. Puputok po yan. At magugulat na lang po ang mga taong ito. At kusa ho sila, baka biglang maglaho ang mga ito sa dami ng kanilang mga kasalanang ipinamana sa ating mga balikat.
Salamat kalon, RJ. Ako naniniwala dyan. Okay. Yeah.
Zika virus, did it came from Brazil, or because Brazil is biodiversified? May biodiversity sa Brazil. Here in the Philippines, there is also a biodiversity. What is the possibility that Zika virus, since Brazil is biodiversified, would affect, since if it comes to the Philippines, what kind of biodiversified virus will it generate into? Because biodiversity plays an important role in the development of virus.
All I can say is that
Your mic, please.
all I can say is this supposedly was discovered in 1947. The predominant prevalence of it was in, I think, Tahiti or one of the South Pacific islands. No, I believe it was in I believe it was in the South Pacific. Okay. And there's a great lack of it in Africa. My sense is it's a mutation of dengue because it's a very mild form of dengue. And the possibility exists that the GMO mosquitoes may have caused a modified form of dengue. That seems to be the case. The other issue with this is that it appears as though it's not that harmful to anyone except, in my mind, it appears to me that unless a woman gets it in the first 8.5 weeks, and I'm not, just from a logical perspective, it seems that that's the most important time for that. There's not a lot to fear. They are talking about Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is what they think Franklin Roosevelt may have had, which causes paralysis. But I'm not hearing a lot about that right now. I'm going to do more. I want to collect everything because there's a lot of different. I kind of stopped and moved to the papaya leaf juice because there's so much disinformation coming out, and they're attacking this one and attacking that one. I don't think this is a conspiracy. I think it might be a mistake. I think that putting these things out way back in 2011 without, they charged $700 million to $1 billion to approve a drug. These guys have no regulation, and they're putting these things out left, right, and sideways. They're trying to, so it's important. The one thing I do know is that all the protests you guys do everywhere, there's no more important protest than saying we don't want GMO mosquitoes in the Philippines under any circumstances. There's one thing on water, okay? I look at all sorts of problems, and I noticed that oil, vegetable oil and plant oils, I have very little evaporation, okay? So that I came up with an idea that, I know you have water and all of this, that you're free to use. Theoretically, we could take a reservoir and we could put oil, which will find its own surface, its own level. We could put vegetable or plant oil on the reservoir, and that would theoretically stop the evaporation from going up to the sky. Okay, they're doing something like that with balls in Los Angeles, which is I think a lot more expensive. But I think I think that would save our reservoir across the board without evaporation. Now, here's what you do: take two bowls, put one with a layer of oil, and one without, and see which one goes down faster outside, and see what it is.
You're right.
But I came up with that.
Makes sense.
I came up with that solution before. I worked in the removal of oil and chemicals from water in a number of different areas. But the vegetable oil and the plant oil type of a thing, I think, would minimize evaporation.
It has to add something.
I'd just like to make a comment on biodiversity. I think that biodiversity is our friend. Why? Because in an ecosystem you have primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers. So a tertiary consumer would be like an eagle. That's like at the very top of the food chain. A primary consumer would be your much smaller organisms, which serve as the food for the other organisms. And actually, when you have a dearth of biodiversity and there's less species in the system, it means you're going to get more primary consumers. So, in other words, when there's less species to feed on the mosquitoes, you're much more likely to have a huge outbreak because the mosquito population will just explode. Because there's no little lizards or birds or frogs or amphibians to consume them. So it's really just a matter of math. The more animals you have eating mosquitoes, the less mosquitoes you're going to have. With regards to mutations, I'm not entirely sure that all mutations are malicious. Some are benign. If the Zika virus mutates more, it might be perfectly innocuous, but we don't know. for sure what's going to happen with these kinds of things because nature is pretty random the way it works.
Unless you mess with nature. Unless you mess with nature. Let me say this to you. The original guys that did GMO, they took one plant and they took the juice from the plant and they put it with anaerobic bacteria. And then they cut the edge of another leaf and they put it into that and transferred this one thing into the other. Things like that to create another species of a plant or something like that. I'm not clear that that's harmful, okay? I just think when you do certain things like play with life, it can have unintended consequences, and they have no idea what they're really doing with it. So it's very, very important that we keep from having these GMO mosquitoes here, and then we're vigilant. That you know, I'm with the Guardians and a number of other groups, and I'm telling everyone, tell all your people to tell everyone if they get sick, everyone give papaya leaves. Don't sell them, give them if you have them. Take care of each other.
Okay. Last question from Neil.
Yeah. Brother RJ, I lost track on the decision of the court for Meralco to return certain amount, billions I think, no, to consumers. Can you brief us on this, the status of this?
Actually, there's an ongoing hearing in the Energy Regulatory Commission that we are looking into around 800 million pesos that need to be refunded to the elected consumers. But right now, the decision of ERC is to postpone the hearing after election. And there's a pending 10 billion peso
overcharge
in the Supreme Court that being asked by Meralco actually. So if you're going to minus 10 billion to 800 million peso, that's 9.2 billion. So increase pa din siya, di ba? So what we're looking in the ERC case right now, we're one of the petitioner, the United Filipino Consumers and Commuters. This coming June, I forgot the exact date, I don't know if June 20, I will cross-examine the auditor of Meralco. So, ang gusto natin mangyari dyan is we welcome this 800 million refund, but we're questioning, masyado pong maliit yung 800 million na yan. Ang sinasabi natin on the issue of system losses, SLUR, GOUR, these are 5 topics under the ERC hearing. So, ang evaluation namin, hindi yung bababa ng mga 5 to 8 billion. Maliit pa po yun. Yung dapat nilang ibalik sa ating mga electric consumers. So there are plenty of issues right now concerning the issue of public utilities. So this is one major issue that need to be tackled by our presidentiables, by our vice presidentiables, na they are very silent. No? They are very silent. So, alam na natin kung bakit sila silent. No? Hindi natin alam kung how much is the cost of being... Ganun lang po yun. You know? So, that's the sad state of our political spectrum right now. Yun po. Salamat po.
Okay, last statement from John Olivarez.
Okay, yun po, no? Regarding sa mga activities po ng networking scam, regarding po dito sa victims and yung mga sumasali po dahil hindi po pinipili yung mga tao na bibiktimahin mga ito. Mga prominent po yung mga victims from media, actress, from sa showbiz, mga politicians, and also the high-ranking PNP officials. May mga sumasali po kaso after the kung mag-collapse yung kumpanya, hindi po sila makakalabas dahil nahihiya po sila. So dito po, no, based on our investigation din, yung ibang mga kumpanya po ay yung mga scam companies ay patakbo po ng mga politiko. Politiko po yung nagpapatakbo dahil Dito po sa bandang South, meron pong isang politiko na nagpatakbo dito, 3 billion po last 2 months ago. Yung pumutok po yung isang scam company na ang pinapalabas ay yung isang tao ang nagtakbo ng 3 bilyong piso na yon. Nasa South po yun. Alam po ninyo kung sino at ano po yun. At tumatakbo po ngayon yung congressman, no? Or re-elect na mayor. So kami po ay wala po kaming resources paano po labanan yung mga MLM o yung networking scam, double your money, pyramiding. Kasi po kahit binibigyan na po sila ng cease and desist order ng Securities and Exchange Commission, ang gagawin lang naman nila ay magpapalit lang po ng pangalan. Wala po kasi tayong batas po talaga na motu proprio na pag nabalitaan, although yung ating gobyerno kulang po sa monitoring and implementation. Kasi pagkabigay nila ng registration ng kumpanya, ay pinapabayaan na po nila yan. Hindi na po kung saan po opisina, kung ano talaga ang negosyo niyan. Wala po, actually may mga visitation rights po yung local government and then yung ating Securities and Exchange Commission. Kaso po, hindi po nila ginagawa yon. Kaya pumuputok ang isang kumpanya na maraming biktima, maraming na-scam pagkatapos na po at wala na po yung tao. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank our guests, Lito, June, Stuart, Ilka, and RJ for giving us a very intelligent discussion today and for educating all of us. Thank you so much and see you next week.